Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Amar Elm, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to be joined by Danny Esquivel, CEO of Workiflow, a rapidly growing automation and workflow consultancy specializing in helping businesses harness the power of digital process optimization. Danny is known for blending technical expertise with a passion for nurturing business growth, driving client success with custom solutions that streamline and automate operations across a wide range of industries. Danny, welcome to Founders Future.
Thanks so much for having me. Love the intro, by the way, and the energy.
Yeah, I'm glad you like it. I'm
Same.
excited to dive in. I always like to take things back to the beginning. So I know you are the current CEO of Workiflow. You're not the founder. So take us back to before you joined Workiflow. What were you doing? And then what was really the catalyst between you coming onto the company and then eventually becoming the CEO?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've actually never had a normal like W-2 job. I've always been in a position where I could take a potential startup or a business that's already evolving in its early stages and take it to the next level. And the way I did that is by being a business consultant very early on in my journey. What's funny though is that when I was working with one of my clients, they were actually looking to implement Monday.com. So I self-taught myself, but then I realized that I needed some additional expertise. So I actually contracted at that time Keenan Tehran and John Paul Tehran, they're actually brothers, or the original founders of Workiflow, to help me actually instill Monday.com for my client. They were doing about 25 million a year and they had about 70 employees. So they brought me on a set of operations, and I realized, wow, if we're going to completely revolutionize their tech stack, I'm going to need some additional expert help. Brought them on board, loved what they were doing, and they also saw how quickly it's picking up Monday and even another tool called Make.com, like a Zapier. So they brought me on, and long story short, I love what they were doing. They loved the way I was working, and they said, "Hey, why don't you just do what you're doing now, but more at scale with us?" So I did. Ended up loving working with them and their heart, and I was like, "Hey guys, if I just gave you money, could I just be one of the owners of Workiflow?" This was 2.5 years ago. They said, "Sure," and that's how I became the CEO. Yeah.
Was that a difficult deal to put together? What did it go back and forth for quite a while? Give me just
No,
a snapshot of that.
yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It was more like I gave them X number of money for X percentage of the business, and they're like, okay, great, let's do it.
How did that make you the CEO though? Because I can imagine those are two completely separate conversations.
Yeah, so during this time, I had already been with Workiflow for 3 months. In context, at that point, Workiflow wasn't really a business, it's more of a collection of freelancers just collaborating together. It was like maybe at that point, we already had a dev team building apps, but outside of the dev team, maybe like only four other professionals. So in total, the team size was about like anywhere from 8 to 10 people.
Mm,
And when I gave them the money, it was to help fund the app development. So the main reason that I was giving the money was like, hey, I like the apps that you're already building on top of money.com. I see the vision and the future here. I know it's very early on, but what if I stepped into the role to help you guys be more formalized as a business and actually take our partnership to monday.com or with monday.com to the next level?
how did they get a partnership with Monday.com?
Yeah, so, and this is where I've really noticed the market completely shift. I think Salesforce was the leader in this, was having something called a partnership ecosystem. So there's two routes to entrepreneurship, at least when it comes to SaaS. You can have your own product and you can manage that, or you can join someone else's product and sell that on their behalf. So you can have a referral partner program, or you can have a channel partner program. Referrals is very straightforward. You get X% commission every time you sell the product. And then channel partner program is more like when you become essentially a strategic partner for that specific product or software or service offering. And then you say, great, what if we work together on actually closing leads and actually providing additional services on top of that so that the client at the end of the day has the best experience possible?
Mm,
So that's kind of like what Monday, HubSpot, Salesforce all do. And so
mm.
one of the requirements was that if we were to become a channel partner, specifically in North America, you do need a US owner. And I'm actually the only US owner for Workiflow. So that kind of checked that box. And then Keenan and JP already had a history of closing many deals. And then when I came on top, we accelerated that. So we met that second checkbox. And then once we went through the trial period, that's when we became something called a silver partner because there's four tiers: bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And so we went from bronze to silver and then in 6 months to platinum.
And can anybody do this? Like, aside from being a US owner, are there any like stringent requirements that most people can't overcome?
Honestly, the only thing they care about is how much money you make them, like how much ARR are you generating per year.
That's completely fair.
Yeah.
That makes
So,
perfect sense.
yeah, as long as you have some like acquisition funnel that helps you acquire these clients and push them towards Monday.com, that's all that really matters.
I like it. So walk me, and it looks nicer. When I go on your LinkedIn page, when I go on Workiflow's LinkedIn page, partner with Monday.com, it's, oh, this is intriguing. So walk me through what your current business model looks like in the sense of two things. Who is your ideal customer? I know it's a wide range of industries, but if you can briefly touch upon, that'd be great. And then
Yeah,
from there, what are the core offerings and services that you provide?
cool. I'll even start with the one-liner I usually give as an intro. So, at Workiflow, we've had the privilege now to service over 1,000 clients ranging from SMB to Fortune 500 organizations. And we've fortunately had the ability to now grow our team to almost 30 people. So that allows us to mainly focus on just about any industry, any platform at this point. But our top five industries would be marketing and creative, real estate and property management, law firms in general, and manufacturing, and finally construction. Those would be like our top five.
Got it. And then when it comes to so marketing, real estate, law firms, marketing and creative, real estate
Mhm.
and property management, law firms in general, you said manufacturing and then you said construction?
Correct.
Okay, very cool. When it comes to the actual offerings, is it all customized? Is it a standard offering that people come into? What does that actually look like?
So now that I've been doing this for quite some time, I notice that there's definitely a pattern between different clients and like the way you problem find and then problem solve. But we do something that's called a done with you and not a done for you solution.
Yep.
So where we actually try to sit down with the client, really understand their needs, get a consistent cadence in terms of meetings to eventually build a much more bespoke solution. So we're actually one of those consulting agencies that does a lot more hourly rather than project-based work. So we'll still
Wow.
scope it out. Yeah. We'll actually scope things out, tell you how the estimated hours of work, and then adjust as needed.
Why do hourly and not value-based pricing? I'm super curious.
Because we haven't figured out how to do value price basing yet. That is actually the next conversation. The next thing that we're trying to figure out is how do we go from saying, hey, you have this very unique solution. Yeah, we can get there like 50% of the way if we were to like cookie cut it, but how do we base it off of value and not necessarily off of hours? And that's something that we're still trying to figure out because we did have a bad experience previously where clients would essentially abuse that. They're like, I want to change this column, I want to change this graph, I want to change this automation, and they would keep coming back for requests. So trying to figure out a nice way to dial in the project solution, but still limit how many times a client can essentially ask for tweaks or edits is something we just haven't
Mhm.
figured out. So right now we're doing hourly. We do know that there's an opportunity for value-based pricing. We're just still trying to determine how we can do that because
Yeah.
at multiple seven figures it works, but I know that once you're approaching that 8 and 9 figure mark, it gets very hard to keep doing hourly work.
1000%. Unless you want just a lot of bodies in terms of employees and stuff like that. I'm curious, when you say you haven't figured it out, what do you mean by that? Like, what have you tried? What do you feel like is the missing piece to making it work?
How to price our projects so that we can maximize profitability without also being unreasonable. So
Mm.
I've heard partners charging something that would literally take us an hour, like 10 or 15 or $20,000. So then there's this, I guess you could say, duality inside of me where it's that sounds nice. I would like to make 15K in profit for an hour's worth of work, but also I'm in the business of building a relationship. And if all the partners are doing this, how do I stand out or how do we stand out so that when we build this relationship with the client, they're going to trust us for a lot longer rather than just making a quick buck.
Yeah, fair enough. But do you stand out by being the cheapest, or do you stand out by having the best solution, the best customer service? It's interesting. It
Right.
it doesn't necessarily have to do with, oh, you charged me 15K and that guy was going to charge me 8. whatever.
I'm glad you brought that up. We're actually the highest rated partner at the moment in terms of all the partner ecosystem for North America. So we have the most five-star reviews. We've only ever gotten five-star reviews.
Wow.
And we went from being the small guys to one of the top dogs now in all of North America. So it has worked, but I don't think it's sustainable forever. So you're totally right.
Yeah, I'd love to share with you some perspectives on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
When it comes, let's shift a little bit to the back end of the business. When it comes to the lead generation and client acquisition, what are the main marketing channels, acquisition channels that you guys utilize?
So, because we're in the business of building relationships and we really care about giving the best experience possible, including just giving free time to make sure the solution is above and beyond, we get a lot of organic growth. So, a lot of word of mouth. We did also have some marketing channels through Upwork. So Keenan and JP were the top Monday.com experts, at least at the time when we were mainly on Upwork. And then I also joined, so I was generating some leads there. And then Monday released their own version of an Upwork called the Expert Catalog. And it's just a catalog of experts. And we're also number one on there. So those are generating some leads for us. But our main lead generator is actually Monday directly. So the way channel partnerships work is that as you continue relationship with Monday, you actually get to build direct relationships with the account managers, account executives, and even some SDRs or BDRs inside of their ecosystem. And so, because we built the relationships with them as well, they'll actually book time with us to help them close a deal, and then we get a co-sell or influ sell opportunity, which means that we make a small commission, they make a small commission, and we also get to provide professional service on top of that.
Got it. Got it. Very cool. So it sounds like the main channels that you utilize do lean more towards hourly as opposed to value-based pricing.
Correct at this moment.
Yeah, because if I am going on those types of channels like an Upwork or an expert catalog and everybody else is pricing hourly, because I've been on Upwork, I've seen all that stuff. Some people don't, it depends, but the majority of people do. Have you thought about implementing other marketing techniques? Because obviously you guys have had a lot of success with this, but have you thought of implementing something else to attract people that would be more inclined to pay a value-based pricing model?
Yeah, so we want to become one of the market leaders for the channel partnership by posting so much content that it would be unreasonable for us to fail. So my objective now is, as I'm slowly learning to delegate my sales role, I'm the CEO, but a lot of it I was doing sales, delegating that piece so I can actually focus now on marketing and generating as much free content as possible. And essentially by having so much volume and obviously with quality, we can start being on top of mind of anytime someone's looking for any form of Monday.com service. And hopefully that channel will then start generating us leads where we can start focusing more on the value that we're providing, not necessarily the hourly rate that we're charging.
So you're looking to implement an organic content strategy.
Correct.
And you're currently running the sales right now. You said as you step out, do you currently have somebody who's going to come in and fill that role for you? What does that look like?
Yeah, I've actually been training two of my top consultants to start taking on more sales roles because the way or the dynamic that our sales opportunities kind of work is that we're not necessarily doing all the sales, we're doing like half of it, but we're also something that's called a sales engineer. So instead of being salesperson from Monday, salesperson from Workiflow, tag teaming the client, and the client gets overwhelmed, it's like salesperson from Monday and technically an unbiased source from Workiflow that just says, here's the truth, here's how it's working, here's how we can build a solution for you, and then tag teaming it with the Monday account manager or executive, when we have those two parties and work with the client, it closes the client. All that to say, it's a lot easier to train my consultants because they already have the technical expertise. And I just need to keep training them that they shouldn't be feature dumping. They should just be speaking about the value of the solution.
Yes, it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah,
A lot of people want to. You mentioned unreasonable. The when you said put so much content, it would be unreasonable to fail. Did you get that from Alex Ramosi?
that's exactly right.
Nice. Because I wrote that same thing in my notes. I heard it like 2 weeks ago, and he was like, "Figure out what you want, ignore the opinions of others, and take so much action that it would be and or don't know." He said, "Do so much volume that it would be unreasonable for you to become successful."
Correct.
Another thing is a lot of people sell the TSA. They sell the flight. They don't sell the trip to Hawaii. So when you were
Hmm.
talking about the features and the benefits, and telling them to sell more of the outcomes. I've found that a lot of technical experts, once you're really good at the thing, you have to train yourself out of focusing on the nitty-gritty. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And it's more so, what will this allow this client to do? Not, oh my God, look at how cool this automation is. Because you might like it, but they probably don't care. They just want the outcome. You know?
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
sorry, go for it. Were you gonna say something?
No, I was saying exactly right. I think you couldn't have worded it any better.
I'm curious when it comes to your vision and where you want to take the company. Let's say 12 months down the line. What specific revenue targets, performance targets, what are you really aiming towards?
Yeah, so one of the things we have instilled to help us start stepping away from the hourly motion is actually building out a strategic partnership with our clients and selling a retainer package. So it
Mm,
is like a bulk of hours, but they're non-refundable and there is a minimum requirement in terms of the contract length. So my goal ideally would be, like just frankly speaking, between commissions and 12 months down the road. So between commissions and also the retainer packages, almost essentially having guaranteed monies coming in every month, I
yeah.
would like that to be between like 150 and 200 a month.
What do you feel like is the biggest challenge to making that happen?
Finding enough talent. I have to keep telling Monday to slow down because we just can't find enough talent to keep up. Our growth has been essentially accelerating, so exponential, but our hiring has been linear. So it's really hard to find the right people at the right time to fill in these gaps. So a lot of times we have to take someone and train them up.
What kind of talent are you looking for currently? Is it like people on the technical side, people on the marketing side, the sales side? What are you looking for?
So it's very hard to find someone that knows Make and Monday directly, so we have to find alternatives. Do you know N8N? Do you know Workato? Do you know Zapier? Okay, great. That checks one box. The next box is, okay, you don't know Monday, but do you know ClickUp? Do you know HubSpot? Do you know Salesforce? Great. Then you can pick up those two things. So someone that has the ability to think like a computer normally does really well on the technical side. For sales, it's like, cool. Now we have to find this unicorn and also say, now you also have to be really good at sales. So
Yeah,
double unicorn.
fair
So
enough.
it's pretty hard to find that talent.
Yeah. So it sounds like if you were to tweak the value-based pricing thing, you could have the same amount of work that you're doing right now, but at an exponentially higher profit margin.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exciting, man. That's a great spot to be in.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate. We deal with the fact that we have too much work and never enough people rather than the other way around. So it would be great to not have to always hire more people to generate more money.
Yes, less overhead, less operational complexities. I'm curious your thoughts on this because when I scroll on YouTube and I have some buddies of mine that are still figuring their life out and they would come to me and they're like, oh, look at this AI automation thing. Should I start a make.com agency? Should I start an N8N agency? Something like that. I'm curious your perspective on that and what you think of those types of businesses popping up nowadays.
It's a great question. I think 3 to 4 years ago, it made a lot of sense. Not because the market is saturated, but because the market keeps evolving. What I
Mm,
would actually almost encourage them to do is not only learn how to build automations on these platforms, but even learn how to script and vibe code because a lot of times there's only so much that you can do with an automation. I'll get clients all the time asking for a specific UI or a specific way to display the data that just the software itself doesn't let you, at least on the API backend. But if you can vibe code so you can interact with the SDK, essentially with the code of the platform itself, and actually showcase the client exactly what they need, I think it's going to take it to the next level. We're currently exploring how we can use vibe coding to pump out way more apps with our dev team because we notice how long it takes to go the traditional route. So what if we supercharge them to now 5x or 10x or 20x their productivity and just start pumping out a bunch of more apps on the Monday marketplace as an example.
got it. So that's advice you would give people looking to get into the automation market.
Yeah,
Le-
it's also learning how to vibe code.
Learn how to vibe code. What is the best way for them to do that, in your opinion?
I know there's courses, but honestly, the best way would be you do need to learn some coding like C plus or even C sharp, something that's a little bit more lower level, because if you understand the fundamentals of how a computer works, then you can provide much better instructions. Your
Mm,
your output is only as good as your input. So as the famous saying goes, bad data in, bad data out. So if you provide a bad prompt with no clear instructions to the AI, it's going to provide you a bad outcome or bad output.
got it. That's some great advice. What is the best way for people to reach out to you to work with you, either in a client capacity or actually joining Workiflow as well?
If they wanted to join Workiflow, especially because we're obviously actively hiring and hoping we can find more people, they can just reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. In terms of working with me, the two main channels is LinkedIn as well, or even just workiflow.com.
Workiflow.com.
Yeah, you can actually book a meeting there.
Okay, powerful.
Yes,
Any
sir.
final words before we wrap up?
Running a business is probably one of the hardest things that you can do. Now that I'm here managing a team of nearly 30 people, it has humbled me because my entire life I wanted to be a business owner. And I came to find out why so many people don't become business owners. So it's not to be discouraging. It's just to say that hard is normal.
Yeah, I love that. It's part of the game. High risk, high reward. And you obviously have grinded to get yourself here. And for me, I always, when I think of it, and I think of what I'm going to think about when I'm older, I will always regret the things I didn't do versus the things I did.
Hmm.
I would rather take the risk now at a young age versus wish that I took it when I'm 60, 70, 80 years old.
Yeah, I love that. That's actually something I think about all the time. So I'm glad you pointed that out.
Yeah. The saying amor fati or something like that.
I haven't actually.
It's a stoic idea of meditating on your mortality, which is basically just Marcus Aurelius wrote about it in his book Meditations, where he talks about it's good for a man to think about his death and think about his inevitable demise, because that's something that's going to come for all of us. And when you meditate on that, I think it puts a lot of things into perspective. It's like you're grateful for a lot more, but then you also realize that a lot of the things that we worry about don't really matter that much. It's not that big of a deal. But I do
Mhm.
know we have to wrap up pretty soon. So,
No worries. I can go over if you need me to. It's totally up to you. I want to be mindful of your time, but I appreciate the insight.
yeah, I appreciate that. I think you'd like Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. If you've never read it, have you ever read it or no?
No, I haven't.
Man, so he was a Roman emperor, one of the best Roman emperors ever. And it wasn't a book that was ever supposed to be released. It was literally his journal to himself as he was emperor. So you
Mm.
get to see what his thought process was about and what he was thinking. And it was very cool. For example, one of the passages that stuck out to me was where he was trying to humble himself and he was just telling himself like, "Hey, you're not special. You're not special. Remember, just because you have all of this wealth, you have all of this power, you have that, you can still fall into the same traps that everybody else falls into. Make sure to stay." He doesn't say stay humble, but in other words, make sure to stay humble and remind yourself you're not special and and do the things that you need to do on an everyday basis, which is super, super powerful. I love it a lot.
I really like that. It actually reminds me of a Proverbs, obviously from the Bible, where pride begots a downfall, but
Mm.
humility helps uphold you. Those are not the exact words, I know I butchered it, but the idea is that pride usually does bring the downfall of someone because you start over assuming and overestimating what your capabilities are and potentially not down pushing, but essentially pushing the people around you down, meaning that you start relying only on your skill set rather than the culmination of a community. So, as you try to take on the world by yourself, you can easily get overwhelmed and potentially fall.
I love that. Yeah, I like that a lot. And I know in my own personal life when I was younger, I would get very cocky and very arrogant and think, oh, it's all me, I'm this and that. And then not really realizing or not giving credit to first off the people around you, but more importantly God. And always that's something that I've been more and more thinking about, and I think it's honestly a cheat code when you do this, because I found in my life more good things come when I am just by myself. I'm maybe getting ready for bed, and I'm just thinking, and I'm like, thank you, God, for everything. Like it's everything that I have is because of you, and everything that I will have, good or bad, is thanks to you. And I'm grateful for it because I know it's all there to serve me. And life is happening to me, or sorry, life is happening for me, not to me. But yeah, man, we can get philosophical all day long.
Hey, you remind me of Paul now from the New Testament talking about to be thankful and in all things. Just as a little insight, there's a psychological study that basically said when you're thankful, you can't experience fear or anxiety. A lot of times, the best way to overcome your fears and when you're really in a bad spot is to start being thankful for things.
I love that. Danny, I do unfortunately have another call,
No
but
worries.
I really appreciate your time.
Sure thing. It was a pleasure. Let me know if you ever want to collaborate again. I also checked out your website. It looks really interesting, so might be checking it out later.
Let's do it.
Yes,
So
sir. All right.
that wraps up another insightful episode of Founders Future. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to connect with Danny. Go to workiflow.com. That's workiflow.com. And we'll also link his LinkedIn around here. It's pretty easy to find. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or an agency owner, and you're really looking to scale your business and you want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to discover how we can support your growth journey. Until then, keep on climbing.